Golden Knights and Hurricanes. It's going down. Stanley Cup Final, predictions, best bets, and everything you need to know.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We've hit the pinnacle, my fantasy fanatics, and even though hockey is on the doorstep of the Stanley Cup, we got fantasy follow to be had here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele and Flip, showing love to the everydayers, holding us down, making us their first listen every single day. Today's show, Steele, we're getting down to business. Yeah, we're going to start with this Eastern Conference Final recap. The Montreal Canadiens going out with a bit of a whimper, but the meat and potatoes, the Golden Knights and Hurricanes. I'm ready to talk to this topic with you. Hurricanes and Golden Knights, we'll get there. X factors, best bets, predictions, fantasy fallout. Over to you, my friend. What went wrong with this Montreal Canadiens team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously going game seven against Tampa Bay and the Buffalo Sabres in the first two rounds, I think what ended up happening was fatigue. And I think you could just see that towards game three, game four, and obviously game five against the Carolina Hurricanes. When you go into a game seven against Tampa Bay and the battle that they put up in the first round, somehow come out with a win with only 9 shots, it's not a recipe for success, but it can happen from time to time. And we saw that happen once again in game 7 against the Buffalo Sabres. So when you go the distance in the first 2 rounds, and then you do have to go up against arguably the best team in the Eastern Conference in the Carolina Hurricanes, who took care of business in the first round 4-0, in the second round 4-0, and then had a 12, 13-day layoff of in-between series before they even were matched up against the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah, they came out a little bit rusty, a little bit rusty in game 1 against Montreal, but then bounced right back for the next 4 games. And you saw that happen again. There was no sustained pressure for the Montreal Canadiens. Many, many times they were the Carolina Hurricanes were just suffocating them in the neutral zone, especially when they were getting the puck into the defensive zone of the Hurricanes. They were suffocating them. They quick transition up the ice, and they got the puck out of their own zone. So Frederik Andersen wasn't tested that often, but when he was, the Montreal Canadiens had some spectacular plays. That Lane Hudson goal, tic-tac-toe with Cole Caulfield, I believe it was in game 2 or game 3 to tie up and then go into overtime. They had chances. They had good chances when they had the offensive pressure, but they were just unable to sustain that all game long. So for me, what ended up costing the Montreal Canadiens was the fatigue, but also the Carolina Hurricanes just taking care of business in the first 2 rounds and giving them that extra week and a half to rest before going into the ECF.
Before we get into the Golden Knights side of things, you've teed it up nicely. What I want to talk about with the Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup Final is I want to give them their flowers here, because we know the Montreal Canadiens' time is coming. And you're so right. It almost looked like they just, the term I would use, ran out of gas. And the time is coming. And we know that's a fantasy gold mine. We're going back to that well all day long, and we've covered that. Credit due to the Montreal Canadiens, but the Hurricanes just clamped down. And Brind'Amour deserves so much credit for what he does with this team. Keandre Miller impressed. I discussed that. I think he is a sneaky good add for your fantasy team next season. I'm looking at my notes here. This Carolina Hurricanes team against the Montreal Canadiens, I just want to already segue it to the Golden Knights. This is a whole other weight class that you're dealing with here now with the Vegas Golden Knights. So what I would say is it was impressive. I'm ready to take this team very seriously now. They've done what they haven't been able to do. They won in the Eastern Conference Final and they made a Stanley Cup Final. Aho needs to be better, in my opinion, Steele. Moving on to this Carolina Hurricanes team in a more in-depth, I think if he performs in this Stanley Cup Final, he is the X factor for me to give that away early. He didn't do much against the Montreal Canadiens. I think fantasy-wise, he has a good Stanley Cup Final. I'm already all over this guy. I might have to over or reach because I think Sebastian Aho is in for a big year next year.
Yeah, he's an incredible player, and obviously hasn't been the postseason he's wanted offensively, but when you look at the team aspect of things, they're buzzing on all cylinders right now. It didn't have to be the top line. It's been the second line. Even that fourth line with Jordan Martinook and Jordan Staal, they've been creating some offensive pressure and creating a lot, especially in this last series against Montreal. They were buzzing the offensive zone. So I think it's one of those situations where you can really just, it's not 1 through 4 lines. It's just next line up. And they've been able to do that all postseason long. And that's the success. That's, the benefit and the success that they've had so far in the playoffs this year. So I think Sebastian Aho, while he has, again, hasn't jumped off the page offensively, 4 goals, 7 points in 13 games, regular season fantasy wise, this is an absolute stud. I think he still falls somewhere maybe in the 4th or 5th round, just because there's so many really good players out there as well. But he's such a good player. We know that the Carolina Hurricanes team is not one of the most offensive minded teams. They transition their defensive game into the offensive scheme, and that's how they produce their points. Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, not having great postseasons, regular season, they're absolute studs out there. My X factor has to be Frederik Andersen, and I'm also going to add Jacob Slavin there as well. Jacob Slavin is
Steele. Absolutely.
Probably one of the best defensive defensemen in the game, and he's proven that this postseason as well. I know he had a very poor game 1 against Montreal where he was -4, but he bounced right back, water off the back, comes in the next 4 games and just putting on a defensive class in that series against Montreal. But Frederik Andersen, like I mentioned, he hasn't been tested. And I would say to the full extent of the entire postseason, or at least 90% of the postseason. He's faced 12 shots, 15 shots. Against Ottawa. Ottawa was getting some really good opportunities, getting some posts and some crossbars, but he hasn't had to make that game-saving stop or that, TSN turning point where the momentum changes on a dime. I think against Vegas Golden Knights, like you said, this is a real test now. It's not Ottawa. It's not Philadelphia. It's not a fatigued Montreal. It's a Vegas Golden Knights team that they have many players already that have won the Stanley Cup 3 seasons ago. They have many players who have come in here through trades who are looking to win their first cup. Marner, I believe Tomas Hertl might be one of them, or I think he's one. I can't remember if he was on that 23.
Dorofeyev as well. There's a
Dorofeyev, Andersen,
Andersen,
all these guys, like they Carter Hart even. They want the chip. The other guys want their second Stanley Cup ring as well. So this is going to be a real test for Carolina. Frederik Andersen has to be at his best. This is the first time in his career he's been healthy. He hasn't been overplayed. He's rested. This is a great opportunity for Carolina. So my X factor has to be Frederik Andersen.
Absolutely. And this is why I know we can do this show. No preparation between you and I, no discussion. Goaltending has to be mentioned. Fantasy, we know it's been an Achilles heel of mine. We've got our boys on the Apples and Ginos with basically a whole podcast rooted in what to do with your fantasy goaltenders. It's a fickle thing. And when you look at Freddie and Carter Hart, and I'm ready to talk about that after the break, everything we are going to break down in this Stanley Cup Final, best bets, predictions, fantasy fallout, and stay tuned the rest of the week. Steele and I are getting into the top 25s on every single angle in the fantasy game that you guys want to know, so stay tuned. But quickly, before we get to break, Freddie Andersen, 1.41 goals against in the playoffs. Carter Hart looking like a guy at 2.22. Kelly McCrimmon in the front office for the Vegas Golden Knights. Say what you will about all the noise about Carter Hart, and I know we on this podcast do not talk about that. We talk about hockey. Kelly McCrimmon deserves so much credit. What I would say, though, both these goaltenders playing this well, I don't know how confident I am in next season, me wanting to overreach on both of these players. We look at guys that have really boosted their value, even a guy like Stankoven, that I might. The goaltenders, Freddie is playing good. I don't know if I want him as my number 1 goaltender next year, injury history or otherwise. I'm ready for your take on this Stanley Cup Final right after the break, Steele, and your best bets. I hope you're cooking up something fire. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are here. Every possession matters. You're looking to get even closer. FanDuel has got the offer to get you going right now. New customers, $5 down and hit $150 in bonus bets back in the account. You know, Steele and I are all over the FanDuel app. Playoffs, regular seasons. Check your stats, trends, matchups right in the app before you lay down a wager. Player props, spreads, over-unders. Everything is easy, safe, secure in the FanDuel app. Check it out at FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game.
And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We are back 5 days a week, all of summer long. Make sure you go check out the Everydayer Club here on Locked On Podcast Network as well. $5 a month or $50 a year. Appreciate all that love and support. Hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. It really does go a long way for helping the channel grow. And we really we really love seeing the community, the fantasy hockey community growing as well. You can join the Discord chat with Flip and I. We'll get that going once again when the season starts up. All of our big time bets, trades, any questions you can throw on the YouTube channel, of course, but also the Discord channel. If you join the Everydayer Club, access to free audio episodes. Flip, Vegas Golden Knights. We'll get to their X factor right now. Obviously, I think all of us were surprised when they came out and swept the best team in the National Hockey League 4-0 in the Western Conference Finals. Obviously not, without McCarr for the first 2 games. McKinnon's banged up for games 3 and games 4 as well. Right. It's easy to throw the injury excuse out there, but the Vegas Golden Knights took care of business on their end as well. So they get their second opportunity at winning another Stanley Cup championship, this time against the Carolina Hurricanes. When you look at this roster, and I know you were just talking about Carter Hart and goaltenders are an X factor, but when you look at how they've played so far, who is the guy that you expect to be the game changer in this Stanley Cup Finals?
I know on our previous episode, Steele, to give you a really long answer, you kind of joked that maybe John Tortorella could be in the mix for, I think you said, the Conn Smythe. Yeah, the Conn Smythe. I just wanted to first, before I give you my answer, this man deserves credit, and you know how hard that is for you and I to do on this podcast. But why I wanted to bring it up, it's not just because of what I think John Tortorella's impact has been on this team, going 19-4-1 since taking the reins from Cassidy, is what he does going up against Rod Brind'Amour. Because this is kind of like giving away my final take on this. This series is going to be close. It is going to be a battle. These two coaches have very similar approaches. Jam up the middle, play defensive responsible, shut down top players. It might be some really boring hockey we're getting into. So I just wanted to say, I think whatever coach pushes the right buttons might actually be an X factor. But in terms of a real player and taking a look at this Vegas Golden Knights team, it's got to be Jack Eichel, right? Mitch Marner has really impressed, no doubt. Jack Eichel and Mitch Marner are the 2 best players on the ice, Steele. The Vegas Golden Knights have the 2 best players on the ice. If they do that, this is the Golden Knights series to lose. So I'm looking at Jack Eichel because I know you're already got my back on this guy. Going to be a beast next year for fantasy. He's my X factor. If he does what he does, that 2-way game, that dangle he's got, quick release, toe drag, this Vegas team is going to be very hard to handle, even for the defensively stout Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack Eichel was going to be my X factor as well. He's been so dominant. He's been a playmaker. I think only having 2 goals is a little bit low for him. So I would expect him to start shooting the puck a little bit more with, ferocity. I know he's got 42 shots on net, but a 4.8 shooting percentage is just not good enough. However, he is playmaking. He's leading the Golden Knights in assists with 16 in the postseason, 18 points, second best behind Mitch Marner. Jack Eichel would be my number 1 X factor. I'll take a little bit of a different route. I'm going Shea Theodore. I think along what I just said about Jacob Slavin, while he's more of a defensive defenseman, Shea Theodore is one of those guys who I really think is underrated offensively and can jump into the play, use his speed, use his hockey IQ to be in the right areas at the right time. And I know that the power play, I believe Vegas is still running a 5-forward power play, but if they do go to a defenseman who quarterbacks, it's Shea Theodore. So I really like him to be one of those X factors defensively, to jump up in the play, create some offensive touches alongside Jack Eichel and Mitch Marner, who are so creative in the offensive zone. So that would also be my X factor for the Vegas Golden Knights. When we're talking about best bets, I guess we can get there now. Best bets for both teams, perhaps. When I look at the Vegas Golden Knights, I think it has to be Jack Eichel for the most points in this series. And I know Mitch Marner's leading right now, but you take away that hat trick 4-point night, I believe against Utah or the Anaheim Ducks, he's right there alongside Jack Eichel as well. So my best bet would be Jack Eichel to lead this series in points for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I'm just trying to pull up some odds right now. Like
I got
Vegas,
a whole bunch.
Series player goals leader, like Jack Eichel at plus 430. That could be a very interesting one.
That's juicy.
I'm gonna take the series player point leader with Jack Eichel at plus 230. That would be my best bet for the Vegas Golden Knights side of things. If I'm going with a player from the Carolina Hurricanes, I think you have to go with Logan Stankoven. Like, he has been absolutely.
You're gonna get a good odd for that.
You're getting a good odd. Like, Logan Stankoven right now to be the series player point leader is plus 2,700. And he has been dynamite in the postseason.
Yeah.
9 goals, 3 assists. He's got 12 points. I think he's also going to be an X factor in this series. And I sent you that post before we jumped on.
Yes.
In the 3 years that Logan Stankoven has been in the league, and I just want to make sure this is proper. Yeah, in the 3 seasons he's been in the league, he has been to the Western Conference Finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, and now the Stanley Cup Final. So he is clearly a game changer. The Carolina Hurricanes made a incredible deal to get him, I believe, from the Dallas Stars in that Mikko Rantanen trade, and obviously some other prospects and picks alongside with it, some other assets. Logan Stankoven has gone, he's gone Goku mode. He's gone absolutely insane right now in the postseason offensively.
You have teed me up on today's show so nicely. That's not a golf pun.
Baby. That's what I do.
Logan Stankoven fantasy value was the last little bullet here on my Carolina Hurricanes side of the page, Steele, because this is a guy I drafted pretty high in a few leagues, and I don't mean high in terms of the actual round, just he was drafted. He did nothing for most of the year, little spurts of showing some life, and now he is playing how I expected him to play in the regular season. And what you just said about now, hopefully, all of this experience in the postseason under his belt in the meat grinder that is NHL postseason hockey, hopefully he can explode next season. Very quickly before we get to the break, I did just want to say, before I tease up my best bets after and my prediction along with yours, my last little angle here isn't it intriguing when you look at the blueprint of these two teams? What wins championships in today's NHL? And not to always bring it back to the Toronto Maple Leafs, but it's the team that you and I watch the most, so I like to give comparisons. Austin Matthews has been talking about what? Needing to get tougher, needing to get bigger, needing to get nastier. These are two nasty teams that are defensive forward. And yeah, they have their offensive studs, no doubt, but they hang their hats in the blue, behind the blue line and in the blue paint. Carter Hart, say what you will. Freddie Andersen, say what you will. These are the teams that are built to win in springtime hockey, Steele. And I think that also means they're the ones that you want to regularly go back to the well and target for fantasy value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you look at these two teams, they have been constructed to be juggernaut type teams, and that's not what the Toronto Maple Leafs have done. So they have incredible blue lines, they have incredible depth as well, and a goaltender for as of right now that is healthy and can take them to the promised land.
Both teams have been healthy too. That's been
when we come back after the break, we are going to let you know our predictions for the Stanley Cup Finals and our complete analysis on why that is and what our predictions are. This episode is also brought to you though by Hims. ED is way more common than most guys think. Millions of guys deal with it at some point, and that's exactly why Hims offers a straightforward way to handle it. Hims connects you with a licensed healthcare providers online, giving you access to legitimate ED treatment options from the comfort of your home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process that makes it easier to take care of yourself. The whole process is simple. You just complete a quick online intake and a provider reviews your information. If treatment is right for you, it ships directly to your door in discreet packaging, which makes the whole experience feel private and stress-free. To get simple, online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/LockedOnNHL. That's hims.com/LockedOnNHL for your free online visit. hims.com/LockedOnNHL. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Once again, smash that subscribe button. It really does help the channel grow and helps us along the way as well. We really do appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Fridays when you can find our episodes 7 o'clock in the morning. Flip, predictions, Stanley Cup Finals, Vegas Golden Knights versus Carolina Hurricanes. Who are you going with and why?
Before I kick that off, my best bets,
Okay.
This is a 7-game series all day long. I don't understand why I'm getting plus 180 for this series to go exactly the 7-game mark, predict how many. This has a battle written all over it. I think these two teams are going to go tit for tat. I could see one way the other. This one's going 7 games. Plus 180 for a 7-game series. I love it. And this is going to go right into my prediction. Vegas Golden Knights plus 1.5 on the series spread, minus 170 is so much value. I would have honestly considered taking any team at the plus 1.5, but the fact that I get a plus 1.5 spread on the series for the team that I do expect to win, Steele, and the Vegas Golden Knights is my pick. In 7 games, I'm going with Vegas for this reason. We haven't touched on it yet. I tried to say off the top of the show I wanted to give the Carolina Hurricanes their flowers. You just mentioned how they're built. Slavin, Chatfield, K'Andre Miller, Sean Walker, Shane Gostisbehere, and Alex Nikishin. That's a really good blue line. If you're talking about balance, that might be the most balanced and talented blue line in the NHL. So that's going to be tough to beat. But what we haven't mentioned yet, winning caliber. Mark Stone, Jack Eichel. These guys on the back end have cup steel. The Carolina Hurricanes do not. So when I think of a toss-up series, when I think of a battle, and I think it's going to go down to the wire, I'm going to take Jack Eichel with a cup. I'm going to take these guys who have been there and the winning caliber of the Vegas Golden Knights. They've been there before, and the Hurricanes haven't. I'm going to go Knights in 7.
Well, we have a side bet here because I have the Hurricanes, but we are right on how many games this is going. I have the Hurricanes in 7. And I just think when I look overall, and you kind of took, you said the point so eloquently for me, is that this blue line Carolina has put together is probably the best, if not one of the best in the league right now.
Agreed.
I think Jalen Chatfield, not from a fantasy standpoint, but just overall defensively, is one of the most underrated guys
to play against.
The game. Nasty to play against, big, actually pretty fast, jumps into the play as well. Nikishin is one of my favorite, prospects, rookies in the game right now as a defenseman. Fantasy-wise, I really like Nikishin. You bring in Shane Gostisbehere, you bring in Sean Walker as well. You throw in the best guy on top and Jacob Slavin. This blue line is just tough. So I give the edge to the Carolina Hurricanes for their blue line. I give the edge to the Hurricanes for goaltending, with Frederik Andersen being healthy. Fair. I give the edge to the Carolina Hurricanes with their depth as well. You have Nikolai Ehlers on the third line with Jordan Martinook and Jordan Staal. That's a dominating performance they've done in the postseason, especially in this last series. Also, the fourth line of Jankowski, Carrier, and Robinson. Not going to jump off offensively, but they hold their own. So when I look at all of those facets, all of those factors in this Stanley Cup Finals game, also, Carolina being the home ice advantage team, the first 2 games at home. If it goes to Game 7 in Carolina,
good point.
Barnes going to be rocking. Barnes going to be buzzing. I have Carolina in 7. Also, the little cherry on top is I believe this is the 20-year anniversary of when the last time the Carolina Hurricanes won the Cup. And Rod Brind'Amour was a player, I believe, in that Stanley Cup championship. So it's been 20 years almost to the date when they last won. There's a lot of coincidence, you could say, of the 20 years coming up right now. Also, Rod Brind'Amour, this is just a cool stat that I saw, but he has been, I believe, a part of 99.7% of all Carolina Hurricanes playoff wins. So as a player, as a coach, again, this is a coaching battle between Tortorella and Brind'Amour, really two veteran guys, but also just really good 2 teams that have been put together to top success at this point. So I like the side bet we got going. Let's do it. Let's throw $25 on this one. Let's throw $25 on this little side bet. I got Hurricanes in 7. You got Golden Knights in 7. But just throwing this out there, Hurricanes in 7 to Hurricanes to win in 7 is plus 400. Golden Knights to win in 7 is plus 500. So you're getting some pretty good odds there too.
which I think is very indicative of what I've been trying to allude to, is how close I think this series will be. Another cherry on top, food for thought, only game between these two, I believe, in this regular season was very much at the beginning in October. Vegas took that one 6-3. Means very little at this point in the year, but just throwing it out there. And I would wrap with this. You mentioned the home ice advantage for the Carolina Hurricanes, and that was something that I forgot to mention. So that could also very much swing into, it's a siren battle of the sirens, Steele. Both of these teams, they like to crank that Soldier Boy. So we'll see which one comes out on top.
Yeah, they really do. And we are so excited for the Stanley Cup Finals. Let us know in the comments below who you got winning the Stanley Cup this season and who your X factors are as well. Once again, we appreciate all that love and support you show us Sunday through Thursday is when you can find our episodes. Thank you so much for tuning into the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast. Once again, subscribe button, follow button so you get all of the latest episodes. And we'll see you back here again tomorrow for another hot content pod.
Peace.